Hello everyone, my name is ShadowFox, and most people know me Shadow. I am one of the founding members of the BSO community and the main admin of pretty much everything that's related to BSO. Most of you will have heard of me on the stream of LT, or even have heard me in person on one of his missions. I'm the guy that fixes most of the stuff mission-wise and server-wise together with Joko. Now, this will be the first episode of hopefully many to come, guides on how to make Arma missions in the editor, how to set up servers and other things. The first part of these I will post on LT's channel. They'll cover the very basics of Arma editing, how to set up your mission file, where to find your corresponding folders, etc. The very basics, they'll get you going and they'll let you have the tools that you need to make a decent Zeus mission in vanilla. I've noticed throughout my Arma career, so to say, that guides usually on the internet cover some parts, but don't tend to cover every single step of the process. So that's going to be my goal with these ones, is to go through every single step from the very beginning, from the very basics to the more advanced stuff. The later series that I'll post on my own channel, on my own YouTube channel, will go through more of the advanced stuff, such as scripting. They'll cover some mods such as Ace, Acre, T-Far Alive, maybe other ones, on how to set missions up with these mods, and having a few tricks on how to make them a bit more easy to set up. Depending on how well these guides will be received, I'll most likely do a editing/Q&A stream once a month, where it'll just basically be me editing a mission file, but you guys can ask me questions at the same time. You can tell me my mission's not working because this of this, what can I do to make it better? Do you have tips on this or that? You can find my channel in the description, by the way, both Twitch and YouTube. Also a link to the BSO website and the BSO community, where you can join us on TeamSpeak and as well as Discord. Right, so let's start it off with the absolute basics then for the Arma mission editing, namely where can I find my folders. There's two main folders that you're gonna need to find for making Arma missions. Namely, the first one would be in your documents. Usually is in the documents. I've not seen it be anywhere else before, so it'll be in the documents most likely. Documents, your Arma free. Some of you guys might have a second profile or something, just a profile that you work with. You click on your name. For me, I only have one profile, so it's just this one. In here you'll find missions and MP missions. It's up to you which one you use. I tend to use MP missions because most of my missions are made for multiplayer, so it makes sense in my head to use MP missions. In these you can create folders to make it a bit more easy for you to see this is that, like multiplayer missions, missions for my community, missions for other people. I don't know, you can make folders and you can place your missions here. As you can see, missions have a dot and then the map name behind them. This is a requirement for Arma to be able to read these as a mission folder. If it doesn't have the dot and the map name behind it, such as .vr for the virtual reality, or in my Project Arrowhead folder .rashman, .altis for the other maps, Arma will not read it. So if you are renaming a mission in here, make sure to always leave the dot and the mission, the map name as it was before. Alright then, the second folder will be your MP mission folder in your installation of Arma. Now your Arma is installed in the same location that your Steam will be installed. For me, that's on a separate drive. For most people, that will be desktop, C drive, program files. Oops, wrong one. Programs files, and you'll go into your Steam install folder, Steam apps, common, Arma free, and in here you will find your MP missions folder as well as your missions folder. Still exactly the same one. It's just I tend to use missions folder. You can sometimes there'll be a missions folder as well. I'll explain that later on down the way. MP missions folder in here. You will find your exported missions. Now you can already see that these are in a different format than before. They're no longer a folder, they are now a packed BBO. A little bit comparable to a zip file. They're just packed a little bit tighter and they made into a readable format for a dedicated server. Now I tend to use a BBO manager tool, which lets me unpack these at will as well as pack these. I'll leave a link to the PBO manager that I use in the description. I find it the handiest one because I can just right click on the folder and tell it either to pack, same as with WinRAR, or unpack. Then a different tool that I use as well is the Atom tool for editing the script files. You can see that one down below here. I'll also leave a link for that one in the description. I use it for editing my description and my other scripts in the mission file. Yeah, I find it a very handy one, because if we go into the file settings over here, into the install, and you type in Arma, you will find give it a bit, there we go, you will find a language for Arma written by the AceMod guys, which recognizes the SQF, which is the language that Arma is coded in. This lights up different class names, etc. Also automatically fills in stuff that you might have missed and other things. I just find it a bit handier and a bit easier on the eyes compared to Notepad++. Right then, next step will be in the editor. I'll explain in the editor a bit more, but before we go into the editor, I'm gonna talk a bit more about the mods that you should load or mods that you shouldn't load when you're going into editing missions. Namely, when you're editing missions, you never want to load in with client-side mods. Client-side mod includes mods such as Dynasound, GSRS, Achilles, basically mods that change things on your side but not necessarily add new things to the game. If you load in with a mod such as Ares Achilles, if I can find it, here we go. If you would load in with this mod enabled and you go into editing a mission, this mod would become a dependency for said mission file. Namely, if you then want to launch this mission on a dedicated server or want to host it for other people, they will not be able to play this mission unless they also have Ares mod, Achilles expansion, enabled on their client side. So the server won't start unless you give it Ares mod, and the clients can't load unless they have Ares mod. Obviously this is something we don't want. The Ares mod is just purely for the Zeuses, so always leave out client side mods. I'll also teach you later how to fix it if you do accidentally load into your editor with these enabled. Alright, next we'll hop into the editor. I'll quickly cut to my Arma starting up if it's a bit slow. So now that we're on the all too well known main login screen of Arma, we'll go just simply into the editor. I'm gonna load up a virtual reality file for explaining the different settings that I would like to see you guys use. There's settings used by a lot of people that use the editor, as well as different mission makers around the world. Namely, first and foremost in settings, preferences. In here I usually tend to personally put my autosave to 5 minutes. I think the default is 15 minutes, I just feel a bit safer with 5 minutes. Sometimes in 5 minutes you can do a whole lot of work, and if your PC crashes or Arma crashes, at least you've not lost that work. Also uncheck the box that says binarize new scenario files. This will not binarize your mission.skm, which I'll come back to later, what it does and why we need that. Then in the attributes in general, I do the same with binarize scenario file, I uncheck that box. Then scenario on the top left. In here you can make new scenarios, you can open ones from your folder that we mentioned before in the documents Arma 3. You can save as, default ones. And then you have export. What does export do? Export basically PBOs the mission that you are currently working and places it into the folder that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, namely the Steam Apps Common, etc. into either the MP mission folder if you press export to multiplayer, or the missions folder if you click export to single player. It will automatically put it into a PBO format. It's handy that Arma does that for you, so you don't have to use a PBO manager if you only gonna export stuff. Then we've got the open scenario folder, which is grayed out at the moment because this file is not open yet. If you would click this, it would bring you into the documents Arma 3 and into your mission folder that you're currently working on. Right, so what do we find in our mission folders? I'm gonna open one of the tutorial missions folders that I prepared earlier. So in a mission folder, see, we've already got an error there. So I kind of set that up for you guys. So you see in here, we've got a whole lot of errors, which some of you might have as well. It's basically telling me you've loaded up for vanilla. All these ones in reds are mods that you should have to be able to view this file. Now I can explain you guys why we turn off the binarizing. So the file that I tried to open is the tutorial one, this one. So we simply go and find that file. If my PC would let me go back to my thingy, there we go. So you go and find that file in your documents, your Arma 3. It was in npmissions tutorial.vr. That's the one I was trying to open and it wouldn't let me. Now, if we edit this with Notepad, you'll see this is clearly binarized. So this is what a mission.sqm will look like if it's binarized. A non-binarized mission will look like, I think, like this. Nope, that is also a binarized one. Just quickly grab a non-binarized one. This should be unbinarized. Yep, there we go. So that's an unbinarized mission. Now you'll see that this looks a whole lot different. What does the unbinarizing do? It basically makes it readable. And you'll see here, add-ons, that's pretty much the only thing that we need to be concerned about right now, is the add-ons one that will list all the mods that we see here. That's that list that we saw earlier on in the editor, the one with all the red stuff in it, is basically telling me you were missing most of these. So, let's say you had a mission where that came up and you had accidentally loaded in with Ares, Achilles or something like that, or Dinosaur. What you would do is just, in the editor screen, you would pay attention to which ones are in red, and you then try and find those names in this list, and you simply delete them out. And if you then save that mission.sqm out, you can after that just open your mission file like you usually would. And that is why we turn the binarizing off for files, so that we can get rid of unwanted dependencies for mods. Right, that pretty much covers it almost for the first part. I'm just gonna save a mission out. I'm just gonna give it a name for the moment. We'll just call it test for now. So this is a completely blank mission. So now you'll see that I can actually open scenario folder because it's now made a mission. It's named it in the top right as well. If we click open scenario folder, it'll bring me into the folder where the mission is at. In the beginning, it only makes mission.sqm with nothing next to it. Now, for most missions, you will need a description and an initialization.sqf file as well. This is description.ext and init.sqf. I'll give those two in the description as well, so you can just download them and you don't have to copy them over. So I usually leave a few master files, so to say, on the loose that I can just grab and copy over into new missions. In these folders, you'll find the description.ext is a rather handy one. It sets up basically, well, your description for the mission, to say roughly, is it just adds the defining elements for your mission, such as what game type should it show up in the browser, minimum amount of players, maximum amount of players. You can set all of this up in the editor as well. I tend to do it in description.ext because sometimes I forget to do it in the editor. Most of these are rather straightforward on what they do. Load screen and the overview picture in here, you can give a path to whatever picture you want to use. So if you would want to use a picture, you just go like this and you make sure that you have a folder in your mission file that is also called the same as you put that path in right there, and then it will load in with the picture that you want on your mission. So if you want your face while people are loading into a mission, you can put your face on their screen in very big image. Then you've got the enable debug console, a very simple one. This just enables the debug console. We tend to use that to enable the debug console for people like me and Joko that want to debug stuff while the mission is live. It'll give the debug console to people the people whose UID you have in here. And you've got a bit more simple stuff, disabled AI. What that does is just it disables AI loading in from your playable slots in the mission. I'll explain a bit more of that in the second episode. Then the author who made the mission, onload name, onload mission name, just the mission names that show up on the loading screen. Below here we've got the respawn setup. This one is set up to respawn on custom positions. That's that free basically. It respawns on both the modules as well as the respawn_west, which most of you will probably have heard of at some point. Then you've got the respawn delay, how long it should take before a player is allowed to respawn again. So you get shot, you die, it takes 3 seconds with this setup to respawn. Now it takes a minute before you're allowed to respawn. Simple as that. Respawn dialog, I just leave that on 0. Respawn on start is basically, do you want the players to respawn on their connecting to the server or not? If you put it on 0, they just load into where you have placed the guy in the editor. If you've placed them in a building, they load into that building. If you put that to 1, they will respawn. They'll sort of die actually. They'll basically spawn into the mission in the respawn screen, and they'll have to click respawn before they get to play. I'll usually always have that on 0. There's not much need to put that on anything else. And the respawn template, this is just menu position. This is just so that you're allowed to spawn on the modules. And this just simply shows the counter at the top of your screen, how long they have until they are allowed to respawn. In the init.sqf, again, a very handy tool, Atom. As you can see here, you will see your mission folder and your corresponding items inside of it. As you can see, this currently is binarized. So, in the init.sqf, you've got enable saving false. That is usually something that every single guy will have on their mission. It's to disable the single player saving. That kind of sometimes creates errors on the backside. You never need to have it on, so I just always have it off so that no one can accidentally click on it. Enable environment, what that does is exactly as it says here. It disables the bunnies and the snake army, killing the FPS. I have found that having all the bunnies and snakes on in very big missions will tend to nail the FPS a little bit. Enable synthesis of false is, as it says again, cuts the tongue of AI. It makes it so that the AI stop yelling, there's a guy there, there's a guy here, shooting this guy, we're getting shot. I find that very annoying if they're constantly yelling that. So that's pretty much the very basics of how to set up a mission file. I will see you guys in the second episode, where I will explain how to set up respawns, playable slots, and more thing. So I'll see you guys next time.